We're going to talk to Marco Colombo now, who is a journalist and political analyst in Italy, and also Stephen Wolfe, who is director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Stephen, maybe I can start with you, because this is interesting, because Giorgia Meloni was in Westminster this week. In fact, she met Rishi Sunak, and she is she's endorsed his, what some would say, tough stance. Some would say a stance that needs to be tough in regard to immigration, in spite of misgivings among her officials about backing the UK policy of deporting asylum seekers to Rwanda. We'll find out what's happening in Italy in just a second. But Stephen, maybe first of all, you could tell us what your thoughts are on this and how helpful it is in terms of some international support for our policy, because the EU, of course, ain't happy, but Giorgia Meloni is.
Well, Giorgia Meloni has been strong on immigration, and she's been even stronger, as you'll hear recently, at the sad deaths of about 72 people who died off the coast of Calabria. And she has therefore taken up the opportunity to be even stronger on what she is regarded to combat the slavery of the third millennium, which is those of people smugglers. And when you link that to what Rishi Sunak's 5 promises are, which is to stop the boats, there is a clear alignment between these two leaders that they have to tackle the scourge of people smuggling. And to do so means that they need to take strong action. Now, of course, in the United Kingdom, we've had the illegal migration bill go through this week, which now enables those who are coming across the channel to be removed after 28 days to places like Rwanda, and I suspect that we'll find other countries as well. So the key point here is to make alignment with those in the European Union who share similar ideas and values to tackle people smugglers, and probably also now to start thinking about how they can move together to help move the European Union along quite strongly to deal with this issue. And on one final point on this, Peter, is that the European Union's own Commission now recognises that 60% of people coming in to the EU by illegal routes are economic migrants. So they're beginning to understand that this is a big profit margins for people smugglers and something needs to be done.
Let's talk to Marco Colombo as well. He's a journalist and political analyst in Italy. In terms of what Giorgia Meloni is doing, the EU isn't happy. What about the general populace in Italy themselves? She is the democratically elected leader of the country. She has, of course, got support. But what do people think of her policy in regard to this, Marco?
Well, let me tell you, I was just checking as the death were mentioned, and the Bishop's newspaper said the death actually 90 and 10 people are still being searched for. So Giorgia Meloni has a very strong position on migration, but she has to come to terms with the fact that the Catholic Church is very strong in Italy, has a strong opinion about migration. The Pope has spoken openly about welcoming migrants. He's himself a migrant coming from Argentina. And also the general public is very shocked at tragedy like the one happened off the shores of Calabria, when 90 people died and 10 people are still searched, some were children. So she has to be tough. This is a policy on migration, but at the same time, listen to the Italian sentiment. It's worth remembering that she has a 300% increase on arrivals.
Well, what is the Italian sentiment? Tell us about that.
Well, as I said, as a Catholic country, there's a very general sentiment that people have to be welcome, be like Jesus, and there's.
Giorgia Meloni is the Prime Minister. She must have some support.
No, she does. She does have, and there's a very strong. The people in Italy, the people that voted for her, wanted exactly this position on migration, especially her party, the Brothers of Italy, and the League, less the Berlusconi's party. So she has, every time she, as she did, happy, she's joining, she's marrying policy like Sunak's Rwanda policy, which of course make shocking news in Italy. She knows that she's moving a step forward. She's probably doing. She's taking a position on migration that has never been taken before by any Italian government. So she's moving the goalpost. After the tragedy, she did go to the village where the people were washed ashores, and she did a cabinet, and she passed very tough legislation against traffickers. And this week in Catania, some 20 people have been arrested for human trafficking. So she's tough, on policies, but she's also tough on action.
Yeah. And surely she would argue that her policies are something that's trying to stop those kinds of tragedies, is trying to stop people coming across and risking their lives.
Well, this is what I was saying. The statistics actually say something different. There's been a 300% increase. 30,000 people arrived in this part of the, in this 4 months compared to 7,000 last year. So shockingly enough, the people in Africa, in Asia, because we have to remember the country of provenance are Pakistan, Ivory Coast, Tunisia, it's Afghanistan, they come from Turkey and from Libya. Those are the routes. They clearly hear the news about the tragedy and the death, but they're not that's not enough to stop them getting on a boat. Only the other day, some 10 boats arrived in Lampedusa, which is a tiny island between Italy and Tunisia. So the shocking news, the death, the tragedy is not stopping the migrants coming. Some action has to be taken at European level. That's why this visit to the Prime Minister, to number 10, was on the top list of Giorgia Meloni, because she feels that only Britain and Poland and possibly the Czech Republic, which are the three conservative powers, the three conservative governments in power at the moment in the European spectrum, can actually help them to push this migration policy forward.
What sort of, it's interesting in terms of her tough action, talking about even naval blockades. The rhetoric seems to have actually matched the reality for Giorgia Meloni in terms of a lot of what she is doing. How much will her meeting with Rishi Sunak, her support for his policies, be noted and perhaps criticised or supported in Italy, Marco? What will happen there as a result of this visit, or is it just another international visit?
No, it is a very important visit. As I said, she actually wanted to come to Britain first, but she had to go to Brussels as a first foreign visit. Of course, we are part of the European Union, and Meloni has always been seen a Eurosceptic. So she had to show some respect for European institutions. But she wanted to be shown, first of all, as a conservative leader. You said, she's not far right, she's not radical right. She wants to be seen as part of this conservative European party. There's European election coming up. Britain clearly is not part of the European Union anymore, but with the next election coming up is the European election. She wants to be seen in that kind of political environment. In terms of Italian politics, it shows that she was respected. Sunak actually welcomed her and talking about her daughters. You could tell there was a feeling between the two. He asked about the daughter that he met in Bali. She has the habit of taking a young daughter with her on institutional and government visit. So she wanted to see, look, I'm not by myself in this right wing or conservative stance on immigration. There is Britain, a country that we always respected. There's also United States, of course, with the issues about Mexico. So I'm not by myself. It's not just the Eastern Europe bloc. She has to kind of get over the fact that she was associated with Poland, Hungary, and Orban, and that kind of.
Well, let me ask you about that. Actually, sorry, Stephen Wilf, I will come back to you for a second. But Marco Colombo, just one more question. Tell me, how much is she in hock to the EU because of Italy's financial position? How much freedom does she have actually to manoeuvre within this?
Well, every time she goes to a European Council, being the Commission or the European Council itself, where the Prime Minister and Head of States are met, she brings the migration issue. She takes it for granted that Europe is going to give us money as part of the recovery plan, but she wants to bring to the table the immigration issue. Seems to be her main point, which is not often shared by France and Germany, the main European power.
Okay. Thank you so much to Marco Colombo, there, journalist and political analyst in Italy. Stephen,